Hello and welcome to Alan's Viewpoints. I'm obviously Alan, at least the last time I checked. Um, one the point of my podcast and everything and these videos is to help provide a different perspective, one that you might not have thought of, uh, to help get you to think outside the box because too many of us think inside a box. I'd like to think my thoughts are quite a bit outside that box. Um, the idea is to let people learn and understand that you don't look straight down. There are things that are over here. There are going to be things to the other side, and you've got to be able to see both. And it takes you have to have an understanding of both sides of a story before you're going to ever get anywhere. So today, what I wanted to do is I wanted to go through the issues that are occurring in the judicial system and how the judicial system is being corrupted into um, things that it wasn't originally supposed to do. Um, and that's where the we're having many problems in the United States. So um, the news media is not telling everybody what's really happening. They're giving their viewpoints and their opinions. And unfortunately, it's now becoming opinions, not news. So when you're only telling one side of a story, you're not doing anything more than giving an opinion. If you don't tell both sides of the story. So the news media should be talking about immigration and saying, look, you know, the laws are on the books. We can only have, there's only so many people in this country, or we're only to allow through immigration so many people. And I do believe that number is about a half a million people right now. So about a half a million people get green cards a year and granted permission to come into the country. That's where we really are set. However, for a period of 4 years, we had some 10 million plus people come in, not only the legal ones, but we're talking the ones that are not legal. Those people who came here through means of crossing a border. Maybe they did come here legally. Maybe they came here on a visa and they overstayed their visa and they decided they're not going home. And I can understand that point. I've been around the world. I've been to many different places, um, and um, here we go. Dang it. And in that journey, I've managed to see many different things around the world. So um, this is the greatest place on earth. We have more freedoms and rights. Uh, Places I've gone, I've seen uh, soldiers on pretty much every major intersection carrying rifles. Uh, let's see, glass bottles cemented into the tops of the fences, barbed wire, you name it, set up to keep people out of the courtyards around a house. Uh, it's it's the way people live. People living on the sides of the road in cardboard boxes or whatever they could find to build a shelter. So I understand why people from other places want to come here. But we're also a magnet because we're providing them all the wealth and everything they need. Uh, so they come here for that. So the immigration laws have been set, and the way the immigration laws have been set in this country, and let's see, switch channels here, pop that up, and you can see 8 of the USC 1151 worldwide level of immigration contains the laws in effect on July of this year, July 10th. So as you go down through this number and you go through these, this is what sets. If you don't come in legally, and so for fiscal years 92, 93, 94, 465,000. shall be subjected to it. Eventually 480,000. So we have these people crossing the border, and they're human trafficked here. Many of them are forced to carry drugs with them. Then many of them, unfortunately, especially the kids that are unaccompanied, are sold into slavery on our side. These people have also been brought in and work for people. They're paid cash. They're hidden under the table. And the people who are screaming the loudest to save all of these illegals are the ones who want them to stay and take our resources. They're okay with our resources going. They provide them with, it's not their money, it's the taxpayers' money. So they only pay a small portion of that tax. The rest is all taken. So anyway, the president, he is to take care of the laws of the land and make sure that they're faithfully executed. So what's the laws of the lands with immigration? Only so many people can come here legally. They're issued green cards. They're evaluated. They've gone through a vetting process. And once they complete that vetting process, they're given a green card and allowed to come into the nation. When you break the law to get into the country, you have not gone through that vetting process. You have not gone through the medical checks that you need to. My wife is an immigrant from the Philippines. I had to make sure that within several months of her arriving here that she had seen a surgeon general to make sure that she was fit and that she had no diseases with her. Now, I was fortunate that I was able to got a little time on that because she did have a visitor's visa that was good for 6 months. And I easily got through that. She had already had the medical exams before she came here, but she had to have a surgeon general sign off on things when I got into the process of going through the immigration process. So there's a lot of steps that the illegals, when they come here illegally, they don't follow. So what do we end up happening? Let's see. So I think it's... I have it on this article. Nope, that's my birthright signature.
Los Angeles District Judge is considering whether federal officers will be forced to change how they carry out raids. Correspondent Bill Malugin has got the details. He's outside the courthouse. Good evening, Bill.
Hey, John, good evening to you. That hearing is underway in the federal courthouse behind us as I speak to you right now, and I can tell you Fox News has learned that the federal judge in this case has issued a tentative decision that goes against the Trump administration. That's according to our sources who have reviewed that initial tentative ruling. Now, Fox is told that federal judge Mame Awusi Mensah Frimpong, a Biden appointee, has written a tentative order that will potentially block the Trump administration, DHS, from carrying out some of the most controversial parts of its immigration sweeps here in the LA area. In particular, DHS will be blocked from conducting stops of suspected illegal immigrants unless the agent has a reasonable suspicion that there is a violation of immigration law. Additionally, the Trump administration will be blocked from relying on race, Spanish-speaking, location, and type of work when making immigration arrests. Now, plaintiff attorneys argue that as this hearing was taking place, a farm in Camarillo, north of Los Angeles, was being raided by federal agents, with farm workers being taken into federal custody. They said that highlights the urgency of this case. Now, this tentative ruling, which Judge Frimpong says is subject to change, is a win for the ACLU, the city of LA, multiple activist groups, and plaintiffs who sued the Trump administration, arguing that their sweeps of Home Depots, car washes, and farms in the LA area were based only on race. According to our producer in the courtroom today, the Trump administration DOJ lawyers denied those allegations in front of the judge, saying that ICE and Border Patrol agents are, quote, not relying on race, period, and adding that they take into account a variety of factors and circumstances when making arrests, including surveillance and intelligence. Again, the judge stressed that this is not a final ruling. She says her final ruling will likely come down sometime tomorrow. This is just a tentative order. She says her mind can change at any time. But the bottom line here, guys, this is shaping up to be what looks to be a significant loss for the Trump administration. They will undoubtedly appeal that loss, but I can tell you the ACLU is setting up for a press conference that is going to happen here within the next hour or so. You can expect they're going to take a victory lap when it comes to that tentative.
All righty. That's enough. Okay. So, based on the Constitution, Article 2 and Article 3, which is the orders of what the executive branch is supposed to do and what the judicial branch has, the judicial branch did not rule that the law that was being enforced by DHS is illegal. They're just trying to stop everything. So I'm sorry, the judge has overstepped their bounds because they're not ruling on the law. They are ruling on whether or not the people can enforce the law. And they're now saying, sorry, I know that Congress put together the laws of the land, and we know that Congress passed that. Those are legal. We know that the judicial branch has said that those are valid laws and can be enforced. But sorry, executive branch, you cannot do your job and enforce those laws. Well, if we can't enforce those laws, well, what laws can be enforced? Why, nobody should get speeding tickets anymore. That should be outlawed because some judge may decide that speeding is going faster than the speed limit is perfectly legal. You cannot stop people from enforcing the laws that are there. The laws would have to be changed by Congress, not by an activist judge. And this is what's happening. We have judges that are doing this, and this is the problem right now with the United States. And worst part about it is the news media, doesn't matter if it's Fox News, ABC, CBS, NBC, whatever alphabet you want to say news station, they're not telling people that what the executive branch is doing is nothing more than enforcing the immigration laws of the land. They're just saying, we don't like it. We want to keep the illegals here. What this is doing is saying, you know what? We want to keep a slave state. I was pretty sure back in the 1800s, we fought a civil war to end the slave state. Yet we keep bringing it back. And who's bringing it back? It is the illegals that are being brought in, and all the Democrats that are seen at this point. It's Democrats that are fighting for it. I do not see any Republicans fighting for illegal immigration. And trust me, having known how my wife came here, and she went through a process, that I pretty much figured out that my wife had came here, and she was probably human trafficked here from the Philippines. She was not told why she was really brought here to the United States or helped to come here by an individual. I could never prove that she was trafficked here, but it had all the hallmarks. When I found out what was happening to her, and it's a story for another time maybe, the full story anyway, but needless to say, when I found out 4 days after she got here, that she had not been given permission to even talk to her family to let her know that she had arrived in the United States, I had questions to what was going on. And every time I looked up what was happening to her, all I could find out was that she was human trafficked. And I did what I needed to do, and it took me about a little over a week of dealing with various departments of various government agencies, and they pulled her out of the house. They took her to a safe house. I went and got her from there, and short time after we got married, and went through the process of helping her to become a naturalized citizen, and did the same for her three youngest children, and her two oldest were over the age of 21, and so that's a completely different story. So I very much am in touch with what's going on with the immigration process, and these illegal immigrants are being turned into slaves. I don't care how you slice that. whether they're working for construction companies or they're out picking things or they're working in a food processing plant, those people are slaves. They drive down the wages. They drive up the cost of housing. They drive up the cost of food. They drive up the cost of vehicles and fuel, because it takes more energy to take care of all these extra people. And so the question is how many illegals are really here? We have to send them home. They're going to have to. It would be better if they just sent themselves home. If they're not sending themselves home, you're going to have to send these people out. And it does have to be investigated. They're going through, they're figuring out where they are, and then they do the raids. These raids are perfectly legal, but this judge is going to do with the activist portion of things, and that's what they're going to do. And that's where we have a serious issue in this country. And I think I can point that out with the Biden Justice Jackson accused the Supreme Court of releasing Trump's wrecking ball. So in an 8-1 decision, Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson issued a blistering dissent on Tuesday after the court cleared the way for Trump administration to implement mass layoffs across the federal bureaucracy, while litigation over the issue continues to play out. And I'm sorry, these people, bureaucrats they're not promised a job for life. They're not guaranteed a job. It has to be no different than a job that's in the private sector. And in the private sector, we have no guarantees that we're going to have a job. Yet she felt that she's using her feelings in her dissent to try to change the laws. The laws allow the executive branch to reduce things and who's hired and who's fired. Those people, that comes back to the executive branch. It does not come down to, whether or not somebody has a feeling that, I feel it's terrible. People are losing their jobs at the federal government level. But they'll find jobs in the private sector. Life will go on. Given the fact that nature of the issue is in the case and many serious harms that have resulted from the president to dramatically reconfiguring the federal government, is eminently reasonable for the district court to maintain the status quo while the courts evaluate the lawfulness of the president's executive action. No, it has nothing to do with feelings. I'm sorry. The law is the law. And the fact is that we are, $37 trillion in debt, and we're charging, we've got $800 billion in discretionary budget. That $800 billion in discretionary budget is paying all the employees their retirement and everything else that we have to pay out to them every year. All the employees. I looked it up last fall. I found, after searching through, we have well over 2 million federal employees being paid an average of $145,000 a year in salary and benefits. I roughly figured out that it was costing the U.S. taxpayer about $445 billion a year just to pay the people who worked for the federal government. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know how many of you actually make over $100,000. Yet the average pay, and I know how this is done. I have friends that were in the federal government. They would work. Especially on the intelligence side, they'd get into an agency. They'd work there for 5 to 10 years, maybe a bit longer. maybe 15 years. Then they would decide they're going to retire and leave. They leave. Their supervisor goes, well, we need that position filled. They'd go back and say, hey, would you come back? Rather than paying you $150,000 a year to do the job you were doing, we're going to offer you $450,000 a year to come back and do what you're doing as a contractor. You think about that, and you multiply that over not 1, not 2, not 10, not 100, but 1,000 or 10,000 employees, and you can start to see how much money the federal government is just throwing out in the rat hole, because rather than having the person work full time for them as an employee, they're as a contractor. And they get away with it. These types of things have to end. The president's trying to end this. And the question is will we as U.S. citizens allow this to continue? But it's not the judge's decision. She has to decide whether or not things are fitting the law. And the law allows President Trump to do what he's doing. She doesn't think so. She can't change the laws. And she's going to vote against it. That's what she's doing. And other judges are doing the same thing. That's why the lawfare occurred. And it is lawfare. You have injunctions popping up all over the United States just because somebody wants to try stopping the president from following the laws that Congress has set forth in the books. How is that against the law? That's what I want to know. If you're following the laws, and those laws have already been judged, those laws have been proven to be legal. So we can't enforce the laws at this point. Why bother to enforce the laws? At that point in time, that's enough. I've kind of ranted enough as it is, so I do apologize for that. I do hope you like the content and gather some information from it. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.